With the Philadelphia Eagles and the Cincinnati Bengals. And Rank, we like Skinny Batman this week.
Yeah, we're starting Devonta Smith against the Cincinnati Bengals. 14-plus fantasy points in 4 of 5 games this season. 3 of those contests with at least 7 receptions. Only Chris Godwin had more among wide receivers. The Bengals have allowed the most targets to wide receivers over the last month. So for me, when I look at this game, where the targets are going to, with Dallas Goedert with the injury concerns and stuff like that, Jalen Hurts has been looking at his 2 wideouts, so I think both of these guys are absolute must-starts.
Yeah, I like Smith, and I love A.J. Brown this week. I think on the other side, Chase Brown is a sleeper. Not only has he played 60% of the snaps in the last 2 games, but you see there, he's averaging over 15 fantasy points per game in the last month. He's getting used near the goal line. But the real reason I like him this week is the Eagles have allowed an explosive run at the 3rd highest rate in the NFL, and we know that Chase Brown is the explosive runner in this backfield, so he could have a couple of big plays on top of the normal work that he always gets.
Over to Buffalo and Seattle. Bills travel into the Pacific Northwest, and I'm telling you, you absolutely should start James Cook this week against the Seattle Seahawks defense. And yes, Ray Davis is getting some opportunities, but really not that many in the grand scheme of things. This is still Cook's backfield. He's had double-digit fantasy points in 4 of the 6 games he has played this season. Has really been kind of a touchdown monster because his yardage has been up and down from week to week. That's been a little bit hard to figure, but 6 touchdowns in 6 games this year. Now facing a Seattle defense, one of the bottom of the league in terms of stopping the run over the last month, giving up nearly 400 yards on the ground and 5 touchdowns. I think this could be a high-scoring game. We'll see what happens with the Seattle Seahawks if they've got DK Metcalf or not. But either way, I expect a lot of points, which means potentially a lot of opportunity for James Cook.
Yeah, let James cook, as Josh Allen says every week. I think you also start the Bills tight end this week because not only does he have 6 or more targets in 4 straight games, which you see there, 2nd longest streak, I believe that Amari Cooper's presence is really going to help Dalton Kincaid. Defenses were keening in on him, trying to take him out in the middle of the field away from the Buffalo Bills. Now they can't do that with a legit out wide downfield presence. So I think Kincaid more built to be a number 2 option in this offense. I think he will feast in that. And the Seahawks, they have struggled against tight ends. They're in the top 10 in fantasy points allowed. And in the last 2 games, they've allowed Pitts and Kittle to be top 10 tight ends.
Next up, we got the Arizona Cardinals heading to Miami to take on the Dolphins, and what I think could be a very pleasing uniform matchup. But fantasy-wise, some changes, some guys coming back in Miami, and maybe that means Jalen Waddle back in our lives?
Yeah, it does mean.
All right, sweet.
Yeah, it does mean Jalen Waddle is back into our lives. When you look at the numbers, he's way better with Tua Tagovailoa out there averaging over 15 fantasy points per game. He becomes a touchdown machine. So really, this has been a thing where we've been suffering with Tyreek Hill, but at least we were smart enough not to start Waddle over these last couple of games. But now that Tua is back, we're going to start him, especially against a Cardinals defense that has allowed 4 receiving touchdowns to wide receivers in the last 2 weeks. That is tied for the most in the NFL.
So I think we're excited about all of these skill position players in Miami, but I would tell you to beware of Tua himself. I feel like the idea of Tua in fantasy has been better than the reality of Tua in fantasy football. Go back to the end of last year. He's had multiple touchdown passes in a game just once over his last 8 contests. And facing a Cardinals defense that's given up 1 or fewer touchdowns in 5 of their 7 games so far this year. Plus, with Tua, the yardage numbers never really as big as we think they're going to be. So unless he throws multiple touchdowns, it's going to be hard for him to put up a big number. But we're very excited about him being out there, able to move the offense, getting Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, the rest of the group all involved. But as for starting Tua himself, I might look for some other options this week. We've got the Bears and the Commanders. Hopefully, if everybody's healthy, a matchup of the top 2 picks in this most recent draft. But, Rank, you're looking in the Chicago backfield for an option.
Yeah, one of the reasons the Bears have played so well over the last number of weeks is because of the emergence of DeAndre Swift. Now, the Bears had a leadership council meeting with offensive coordinator Shane Waldron after the Week 2 loss to the Houston Texans. They kind of went over like, hey, look, these are the kind of things we love to do. These are some of the guys that we're kind of overlooking. I think Cole Kmet was amongst them. But DeAndre Swift, him not being as involved as he has been over the last couple of weeks has been a huge thing. So as much as we love talking about Caleb Williams, the progressions that he's making, the reads that he's making, everything that he's doing out there, it all stems from DeAndre Swift and what he has made and what he has meant to this team. So I'm absolutely going to start him against the Commanders, who've allowed the 5th most rushing yards per game or per rush to running backs this season.
Yeah, I love DeAndre Swift this week. I was surprised, Rank, that you didn't take this one, but I think you could start Caleb Williams in this matchup as well. He has been playing, like Rank said, so well as of late. 23 and 28 fantasy points in his last 2 games, 6 passing touchdowns, but what really stands out to me is 90 rushing yards. That elevates his fantasy floor and ceiling so much, and the Commanders, they were top 5 in fantasy points per game allowed to quarterbacks before they had the privilege of facing the Panthers last week, so I'll throw that one away. They've also allowed touchdowns on the 4th highest rate of drives this season.
I was told after week 2 that the Bears had made a mistake by drafting.
Oh, no, they're still doing that.
Oh, are they?
That's still a big, yeah, Big Cat was talking about that today. Some guy's like, I can't believe, you're insane. If you
And sidekicks! And, it's you guys.
What's up, Marcus?
What are we doing here?
What do you mean, what are we doing?
I thought it was fantasy
superheroes. Look at this. You don't like Aquaman? Did you not know that 71% of the Earth's surface is covered with water? So everybody who wants to sit here and rag on Aquaman, I think you got another thing coming. Captain Haircut and I over here, we've got some guys that can help win you and save your fantasy football season like the legends of the earth that we are. And let's go to Seattle, where Kenneth Walker III has had 20-plus fantasy points in 2 out of the last 3 games. He is now leading the team in receptions with 17 over the last 3 games. And as I look to my lineup and as I seek a hero, I know that Kenneth Walker can save the day. But I ask you, Emo Steve Rogers, who is a sidekick who can help Kenneth Walker?
Got me out here looking like the E-Train Captain America. His sidekick, JSN, is a good start for you this week. Every hero needs a great sidekick. And with a great name, you have Robin, you have Nightwing, who is kind of like Robin, and Groot. And now we get JSN, who sees consistent volume, and he is ready to step up in what could be a high-scoring game if the Hulk lookalike DK Metcalf cannot suit up this week.
There he goes, the full Bruce Banner. By the way, you couldn't find a DC costume like this. I mean, come on, Aquaman. Captain. Anyways, let's talk about another city, London, the great city of London, surrounded by the sea. And Drake London has been surrounded by production, even though there have been those in this universe, in the GMFB universe, which besmirched Drake London coming into this season. We have been steadfast in our support. And this week, he has got a great matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There is no way that we will sit Drake London. But Steve, I ask you, is there a guy we can go with? Also, I'll get there. It's been a while since I've had hair. How about a sidekick for Drake London?
London's sidekick, Darnell Mooney, which reminds me of the time where Gru tried to steal the moon. And who saved the day? His sidekicks. Mooney had a career-best game against the Tampa Bay Bucs a couple of weeks ago. They use a bunch of zone, and he is the zone buster on this team. They also have allowed the 5th most fantasy points to wide receivers. So if you are in need of a sidekick, you don't have the star of the show this week, you can go and plug in Darnell Mooney.
Darnell Mooney, one of the great monsters of the Midway of all time. And I shall look at a current monster of the Midway, but not the kind of monster that Aquaman has fought over the years. No, DJ Moore has been one of the most consistent performers in fantasy football, regardless of team, regardless of quarterback. But one thing that has remained consistent is that he has always stepped up when faced against the Washington Commanders. This week, in a matchup of 1 versus 2 of the quarterback selection crew, DJ Moore is going to get on the 1s and 2s and lead the Bears to victory and take your fantasy team with them.
DJ Moore is the hero Chicago deserves, but Rome Odunze is the one that they need. every great hero has a great sidekick. Batman and Robin, Mario and Luigi, Walter White and Jesse Pinkman, and now DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. The Commanders are top 10 in yards allowed to wide receivers. Odunze leads them in end zone targets this year, and the Commanders have allowed the second most touchdowns to wide receivers. So go ahead, get the big boy, the sidekick, into your lineup this week.